I need you to do something for me. Before you plant your brassicas that you bought from the store out into the garden, check the leaves. Generally, I start my gardens from seed, but sometimes I see plants that I like at the store and I buy them. Last year, I picked up some brassicas from the hardware store, just some varieties that I wanted to try, and I planted them out into the garden. Eventually, I started to notice damage on the brassicas. I had little cabbage worms that had hatched. I had no other cabbage worms throughout the garden except the ones that I had brought in from the store. And I noticed when I went back to a lot of those hardware stores, their brassicas were getting attacked by cabbage worms. So what I want you to do is when you pick out your brassicas this year and lettuce, I want you to look on the leaves and on the underside of the leaves. And what you're going to be looking for are certain types of eggs. I'm going to kind of go over a few of the main cabbage worms that I think most of us have issues with. I want to talk about their eggs and what they look like and what to look for. And I'm going to kind of go through their life cycles. These top spider webs. But, woohoo! I always forget about that one. Gets me every time. It's weird how the web is actually yellow. Because how I've kind of beat the pests in my garden is by knowing what to look for. Knowing which ones are good, which ones are bad, and knowing their different life cycles, knowing what the different eggs look like, so that I'm removing the right ones. From educating myself on that, I've been able to pretty much eradicate the pests and my bugs this spring, summer. And I didn't have any issues really with the cabbage worms last year. For one, because I knew what to look for, and two, I like to interplant my garden. I don't just put cabbages down one row. I like to have my cabbage, spiderweb, I like to maybe put a couple cabbages together, but around that I'll put some lettuce, some violas, which I love. In fact, I've planted over 600 violas of different colors, and I cannot wait to put them out. And then on the edges, I like to put my garlic. So mixing things up like that really does create that bug confusion, and you'll find you won't have as many pests. I'm going to start with the main one that I've already started to see this season. It's called the crossed striped cabbage worm. Their eggs are going to be laid in a cluster of generally 3 to 25, and they are going to be on the underside of the leaf, and they're attached to the leaf by this bit of silk. Almost looks like a web, I guess you could call it. And these bunches are going to be very small, y'all, so just keep an eye out for them. If you see something like that, of course remove it. And these little dudes, when they hatch, they're kind of a light bluish gray appearance with black stripes on the sides. When I first saw them, I thought they looked very similar to that of an armyworm. And they start feasting very quickly, and you'll notice the damage. In fact, this year, y'all, with all the ones that I started from seed, they kind of snuck up on me. Luckily, I started coming out every day and just checking on the leaves. I would just kind of take my hand, like so, and just go under each little leaf and kind of do a little bit of a gentle roll. And through that, I was able to find, if I could feel any cabbage worms, I'd just squish them. And by doing that twice a day, I pretty much got rid of them. And I know I've said this before, but pests come in waves. So basically I was able to get through that wave, and I haven't been seeing any more. And of course, when I put all those brassicas out into the garden, they'll be all mixed in with other things, and I won't be having such an issue with the cabbage worms. Now, in their larva or caterpillar form, they will feast for 2 to 3 weeks. Then they will go into their pupa form. The pupa is quite small, and it's kind of a light brown, a little bit of yellow, and they're generally going to be attached to the leaf of their host plant. Sometimes they might be in the debris around it, and they'll be in this phase for about 9 to 11 days, and they will hatch into a moth. And the moths are light gray with dark patches on the wings, and they will live in their moth form for about 2 weeks. Now, the wonderful thing, though, is if you stay on top of this, they won't be going through 2 to 3 generations in your garden. You can wipe them out the first time they come around, but you need to know what to look for. All of these different cabbage worms will overwinter in your garden. As far as this particular one, the cross-striped cabbage worm, they aren't entirely sure how it overwinters. They assume that it might overwinter in its actual larva form, and then eventually in the spring it pupates. So their active life cycle is generally going to be between May through October. This next one I'm going to talk about is probably the one that you've noticed the most on your brassicas. It's the one that was on the brassicas that I brought home last year and ended up hatching. It's called an imported cabbage worm, and their eggs are laid singly on tops of the leaves, and they're kind of a dome shaped, almost bullet shaped. They start out white and they eventually turn yellow, and they hatch in about 7 days. And these little guys have kind of a velvety green appearance. They're kind of pretty, and they look like if you touch them they would feel nice. I've got myself some marmorated squash beetle larvae right there. So tiny. We'll just get rid of them. And after these little dudes are done feasting on your plant, they will form a chrysalis. And their chrysalis is yellowish gray-green with a bit of brown specks on the top. Kind of almost has a bit of a spikes. Kind of pretty looking. I've noticed them before in my garden and I wasn't quite sure what they were. But if you ever see that, remove it. It will generally be on the host of the plant, or sometimes again they'll put them in the debris around. And if they take this swarm in the summer, they'll be this way for about 11 days. But in the fall winter, they will overwinter this way, eventually turning into a quite lovely little butterfly. Can you check this out though? This pepper has gotten extremely tall. Have you ever seen a pepper that tall before? I just don't know what to think about that. And these cute little butterflies are white with a little bit of black at their forewings. And if you were to look at them underneath, they kind of have a bit of a yellowish appearance. And they can lay up to 300 eggs or more. I'm always telling my little girl who loves to catch butterflies if she'd come out to my garden and catch some for me. Because these little guys, since they're butterflies, you'll see them during the day, and that's when they will lay their eggs. The last little dude I want to talk to you about is called a cabbage cooper. Now, when I first saw these little guys in my garden, I thought they were just cute little inchworms, but they're not. And how you can tell the difference is that they're generally a little bit larger than inchworms. Plus, you'll see thin white to yellowish stripes on the sides of their bodies. Then they love to go after your brassicas, but they also love lettuce and other things like beets and greens in your garden. If you check this tomato out, it's actually still doing pretty good, you guys. We'll see if we get any tomatoes off of it until we get our first frost. You'll want to start looking for these eggs in July, and you'll notice them on the underside of the leaf, and they're laid out sporadically, and they're little tiny balls. Again, a yellow color. And by October, they'll already be in their pupae form, and they'll be overwintering. So if you can catch all of these guys before they overwinter in your garden, you won't be having a huge explosion come springtime when all of your brassicas, especially your heading up veggies, like your broccoli and cabbage and such, you find that they won't be getting attacked, and you won't be losing your cabbages and such to cabbage worms. They pupate on the host plant, and they're kind of a light green, but they're covered in kind of a web. And the adult will merge in about 2 weeks. Oh, hey, it's a little anole. They're all over here in the garden. See if we can get a, oh, he's fast. You're so fast. But they're great to have in the garden because they like to eat bugs. I should have brought my basket because I've got a ton of peppers out here. Now these guys will pupate for about 2 weeks, and then they will emerge into their moth form. Their moth form is about 1 inch long, and they're kind of a grayish brown color. They can lay over 350 eggs in their life cycle. They can go through 2 to 3 life cycles in your garden. So don't let that happen. Stop them at their first life cycle. And it looks like Morrow, my dog, got in the mud. Morrow, what are you doing? Oh boy. She's gonna need a bath. These pumpkins are getting so large, guys. Look at this. Look, noodle beans are growing. Ha, that's fun. Aren't these ones fun? I got some purple ones growing here too, but they're not growing beans yet. We'll just have to wait. So guys, I don't know about you, but I'm ready for fall. I'm up in North Georgia, which is zone 8, and our weather has been cooling down significantly. I can feel fall in the air, which has given me a new, just surge of energy. But I think cabbage worms is one of the things that a lot of gardeners that want to try a fall garden have issues with. So really knowing what to look for and picking them off makes a huge difference, y'all. If you can cover your fall crop with some type of tool to keep the butterflies and moths off them, I think that can work great. Personally, for me in my garden, the way I have it laid out, it just doesn't work that way for me. So I've had great success at just knowing what to look for and coming out here each day and checking for those cabbage worms. But really last year I didn't have any cabbage worms issues except for the ones that I brought in from the store. Because I mix my cabbages in with everything else, I don't just have a whole row of cabbage. Look at this, y'all, before I wrap up and actually go get a basket. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I've been wanting a green ground cover through this tunnel, because when I have things growing here, anything that lives down low dies off and I get mud. So I just ended up putting mulch right here. So what I've been wanting to have grow here, since it can handle the shade, is a plant called the Conjurepens. That right there. And it grows just naturally out here in my garden in certain areas, and I've kind of encouraged it to grow here. So hopefully, this will eventually be just nice, beautiful, thick ground cover. You see, this is what it looks like when it gets a little larger. I've also got this mock strawberry growing down here as well, and I love this ground cover as well. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna go get a basket. It looks like I kneeled in the mud and I got a muddy knee, but that's okay. I guess I'm gonna need to clean myself off and my dog. I hope y'all are all doing very well and excited for fall. I hope you can do a fall garden this year because I highly recommend it. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.